Thanks everyone for coming. I was really expecting an empty room, so I'm really pleased that actually so many of you have come, because it would be really embarrassing talking to an empty room. So yeah, as Phil said, my name is Joan McAleer. I currently work for Deloitte Digital. I'm on maternity leave at the minute. So I had newborn twins. They're 4 months old and they're currently making good use of the conference crest facilities upstairs along with my 2.5-year-old. So today I want to talk about leading software delivery teams to success. So what qualifies me to talk about this? So I have been admin of a WhatsApp group. I have done that. But I've also done a few other things as well. So when I originally put in this slide, it was more for sort of to combat my imposter syndrome, because I kind of thought, you know, I'm sure a number of you have all led teams before, so sort of would be just telling people stuff that they already knew. So what I kind of want people to sort of take out of this slide is that the points and sort of things that I'm going to talk about haven't all come from my experience of leading software development teams. I've sort of taken stuff from other areas as well, like I've done a lot of kayaking and rock climbing and a lot of coaching and sort of training people with that, and I've been president of canoe and mountaineering clubs as a result of that. I've also done a lot of sort of chairperson of the AIT Society, did that for a couple of years, and then I started the Women in Tech group in Deloitte in Belfast, which is now run by Daisy, who's talking today as well. So I've done quite a lot of leadership and a lot of experience in sort of teams as well. So I've just taken that from, the slides are all coming from that broad area. Sorry. A broad area of expertise. Right, so success. What is success? So the definition of this is the accomplishment or aim of a purpose. I'm sure you all know practically every software company, it is the development, maintenance and support of software, usually for financial gain. Don't know too many companies that just develop it for fun. And certainly all my experience is definitely for the financial gain. And that's great if, oh no, my gifts aren't working. So there was a gift there of Show Me the Money from Tom Cruise's film. So that doesn't make much sense now. And the next slide's really not going to make any sense because, but I'll charge on anyway. Damn it. But yes, so if that's your only game, you will be successful, and there's no doubt about that. But if that's all you care about, is just getting the thing done and getting it out the door and making those sales, then that's going to come at quite a cost. So what should have popped up here was a team picture of the A team. So instead of you having the A team picture, you get a blank slide. But instead of your team being the A team, where you can go to them and they'll solve whatever problem that you want, you end up with another blank picture of what would have been the Suicide Squad. Because what you find then is if you just don't care about your team and don't care about your people and those individuals, well, you'll end up with just a team who, yes, they will get the job done, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to be there. They'll be always looking as an excuse to escape. They'll be looking purely after themselves, and you never really know if they're going to kill you or not. So if you broaden your aims and objectives to sort of focus more on the people as well as what your end goal is of your delivering, of what your software is, you tend to have actually a broader, you sort of think, well, I don't have time for all that sort of stuff, but the end result actually ends up being way better and actually much more successful. So for me, the signs of a successful team are happiness. So now I'm not talking about this is my calling in life and that's all I want to do is develop software. Now there is people who do that, but largely most people, that's not your true calling in life, but you're going to do it anyway. But if your team is happy, where they can go in and have a bit of banter and a bit of crack, and you actually want to go to work, this is the thing, is wanting to go to work. It may not be the best job in the world, it may not be your favourite job in the world, it may not be what you want to do, but if you're happy enough when you want to come into work because you're enjoying what you do and you trust and have good fun with your team, then the end result's going to be easy. Low attrition rate. If you're happy and you want to come to work, chances of you wanting to change jobs are very low. And then as a result of that, then you will save money. Your team, your end product will also be much better because you're not having that turn. Like it's perfectly fine to have a normal sort of healthy, 1 or 2 people leaving every now and again. But if you've got people leaving every week, that's going to have a massive churn in your product, and your quality is really going to drop. So I think if you focus on making sure that everyone is doing their best and they are doing what they want to do, then the actual development is easy, regardless of whether you go behaviour-driven development, test-driven development. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. There's many other talks and all that stuff. Because I think if you get the other stuff right first, then whatever you choose, it'll work. So you now have a lovely blank slide. This is embarrassing. But I'm wondering actually if I come out of the presentation and just look at the slides, will it work? No, hold on, let me just try one thing. Because it's just not going to work otherwise. Sometimes I really hate Macs. really, really hate Macs because I think I'm in the wrong file that was exported. This is so embarrassing. Anyway, I'll move. Will it work? Will it work? Talk among yourselves. Da, 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 da. Keep talking. Start talking. No, they're not going to work.
So, do you need more Wi-Fi?
No, they should have they were fine. I don't know why it's not coming up on us. But, no, I don't think it's going to work either way, so I'm just going to wing it. One or two slides might work, but we'll keep going anyway. So where had I got to? Yes. So, oh, maybe it will work now. Yay! That's what everyone loves. Yeah. So the trick to being able to do all these things is having a great team culture. And it's not enough to just tell people that you have, this place is a great place to work. And if you can tell everyone else that it's a great place to work, that's enough. Because I think you have to really drive and work on your team culture. And the trick to that is leadership. So for me, leadership is a really big deal. And I know if there's people in the room who are, if you're just a developer, you might think, oh, well, that's me, I can just switch off now, it doesn't appeal to me. For me, leadership comes from everyone. It doesn't always have to be the expected leader of your team. So it doesn't always have to come from your project lead or your lead developer or your lead architect. And like these are sort of a couple of examples. Like has everyone seen the Goonies? Like if you think of that team of people, the most obvious leader in that team would have been Brandon because he was the oldest and he was the biggest and the strongest. But it was actually Mikey, the little guy, who found the map and come up on the whole quest and led the entire team the whole way through. So he wasn't the obvious leader. If you think in School of Rock, after Jack Black's character Dewey got fired, it was the kids that went to his house and kicked him out of bed to go do the competition. Like, so they showed the leadership of, you know, they still wanted to do this, they still wanted to make it happen, so they went and kicked him out of bed to make it happen. And then this is the 2003 All-Ireland winning Tyrone football team, one of my heroes. Because throughout this campaign, whenever, not all the matches all were going Tyrone's way, but it wasn't always the captain, Peter Canavan, who actually turned the game around. It was actually Brian Dewar, who he didn't get the credit for scoring the points. He wasn't the one who scored the goals, but he was the guy who did the work on the pitch to make sure the ball got to the people who could score and who could win the game for them. But he didn't get the credit for it. It was always Peter Canavan who scored the goals and the points, but it was him who actually turned the games around and made things happen. So he showed great leadership. So much so that whenever Peter Canavan retired, he was then made captain, even though he wasn't the one who scored the most points and the most goals. So, if you think about leadership can come then from anyone on the team, you really got to focus on one team, one dream. This is like a saying that there's a guy I worked with a few years ago. His name was Steve, and this was his mantra, and he drove it into like everyone. It's a good job he didn't copyright it because I would have to pay a lot of money now. But he really believed that there was no such thing as an individual on the team. It didn't matter what role was on your team, what you did. Everyone had to develop, everyone had to deliver. The client didn't care if you got your work done. The client didn't care if one person on your team got all their stuff done. They only cared about the end picture, they only cared about the end result. So if everyone all believed in this one thing, it just really is a big game changer, because then everyone's in the same boat, everyone's going the same way, and it makes a big difference. So in terms then of the team ethos then is what I say. So these are sort of like the characteristics of all this sort of stuff. I know, so apologise for being quite a wordy slide. I had originally planned to have like loads of memes for each one of these, and I'm really glad I didn't now whenever it didn't work. But these are sort of things that I sort of look for and try to have in any team I've ever been involved in, whether that's in software development, kayaking, rock climbing, playing football, or tag rugby. And it's this, first things first is everyone passes or everyone fails. There's no, I've got my stuff done and I'm alright kind of thing. It's that musketeer kind of attitude of all for one and one for all. Because if someone is struggling on your team, so in your stand up in the morning, if there's someone, how often is it you hear someone actually go, because the stand up you usually go, what I've done today, what I do tomorrow, and what problem I'm having. How often is it that you actually sort of hear someone go, I have this problem, and someone goes, yes, I will help you with that. It's very few stand-ups I've ever actually been in where someone has gone, yeah, I'll come and help you with that right away. Or, you know, people tend to sort of focus on their own things and they don't always think about others, which kind of ties into the next point of helping each other out. You know, if you are your experienced developer on your team, and yes, you're very busy, you should really always think about your younger ones who maybe might be struggling. Your graduate developers just might need a wee bit of help, just pointing in the right direction. Or you could equally be the hero on the team who should know how to do stuff, and maybe you've just hit a brick wall and you just need someone to look at it. And you know, just how many times have you like talked to someone through a problem, and just in telling someone that other problem, then that you actually realise how to fix it yourself. But it's being able to work on a team where it's okay to do that, and it's okay for everyone to make that time for each other. Everyone trusts each other. This is the big one. I worked on a team a number of years ago. It was back quite a long years ago, and someone complained about me on the team, saying that I wasn't pulling my weight, and they did it anonymously to the manager. And I never trusted anyone on that team ever again. Like, I asked to be moved off that team, because rather than the person coming and having a chat with me and sort of going, you know, you don't seem to be happy, you're maybe not pulling your weight or whatever, they went straight to the manager, and the manager then just made a big thing about me. What actually was the problem was I was running, if anyone remembers, water tests, Watton and water tests, and you couldn't touch your laptop once you started running these tests. So I couldn't do anything. I was running these tests and I had to just sit there. And this person didn't know what I was doing and just assumed that I was doing nothing, even though I was running these tests, which we built up quite a suite and took hours. So you're just sitting there for hours going, I love life. But I never trusted that team after that, because you never knew who it was. And there was just this real, like, everyone sort of then watching their own backs, and you just like, this didn't work. And then there's the blame game. What was going to happen instead of, the blame game in Northern Ireland, of doing that. Whenever a problem happens, if your first reaction is, well, whose fault is it? You got to look at yourself, because that's not going to solve anything. And whose fault is it, and why did it happen? Because that solves nothing. If people acknowledge that everyone makes mistakes, like no one's perfect, but if people just come together and fix the solution instead, a brilliant way to sort of a visual representation of this is if you ever watched Flash, DC's Flash on, I think it's like an American thing. It's like it's the TV version of the comic book. Absolutely love it. But every episode, there's always this point where someone makes a mistake and someone makes a mess, and someone automatically starts to blame, and then someone always goes, Flash always goes, dude, blaming people isn't going to help, let's focus on the solution. Then they come together and they all come up with a plan and save the day kind of thing. That's kind of, you don't want to get stuck into the blame game. All these are all kind of very similar. They're all sort of points that I think need to be made. So learning from other people's mistakes. Life is too short, projects are too short. How often is it that you actually talk to your other team areas? Like, I know a lot of companies now are starting to do like lunch and things like there, but you'll probably find that if you're coming across a problem, particularly like with DevOps or deployment or anything like there, that's where someone else has already experienced it or has gone through it. And even with teams, dealing with clients and stuff like that as well. Sorry. If you're learning from other people's mistakes, like you'll just save the time, reduce the likelihood of having those mistakes. And also as well, going back to sort of the blame game and then touching on the safe environment point, if someone does make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. If someone accidentally deploys to production because they didn't see that the server name had a 6 in it instead of a 3, which I did. You actually let me do a visit point, it wasn't supposed to happen. It's not the end of the world, but I can guarantee that part, I will never make that mistake ever again. Same way, if anyone else ever does this accidental deploys or doing databases, they will guarantee they will never do that again. And they will put the stuff in place and they will educate other people on the team to never do it again, and anyone else who will listen to do it. So if someone does make a mistake, I've seen it on teams and clients where they just axe that person off the team, where they axe the whole team. And it's more so sort of, I suppose, in consultancy where it's like money's at stake or whatever, but like it's totally the wrong thing to do, because like everyone can make a mistake. It's not like politics where you have to have someone and they need to be seen to be taking the fall. It just doesn't end well. So the safe environment for learning and progression. So what I mean by this is one that I kind of took from kayaking. Hannah Craig, she was an Olympic Irish slalom competitor. She come 10th in the London Olympics in the world. So she's 10th in the world. And this is one of her big things. So whenever you're developing yourself or practicing, all her training, she had to have a safe environment. So whenever she was practicing on a river or whatever, she had to know that it was a safe environment. So if she fell out of her boat while she was pushing herself and kind of reaching her limits and doing what she could, she had to know that there was someone there to rescue her. If she made a mistake and fell out of her boat, the coach wasn't going to go nuts at her. He was going to go, right, you made a mistake, let's look at how you can better take that line, how you can do that instead. Because once you have that, then people really push themselves and push out of their comfort zone, and they're less inclined to sort of go through it. How long have I left? Because I have no idea what time I'm on now. What time is it? Yep. Okay. So, yes, moving on then. The hero complex. So, has anyone ever seen Fireman Sam? Fireman Sam may be the hero next door, but now that I have a child, I've watched so many of these Fireman Sams. Fireman Sam is no hero. He is the bottleneck on that team. So much so that in the training episodes where the whole team is training, Fireman Sam is the one hogging all the training. He doesn't let any of the other team actually train. One episode where he went to take a day off work, he ended up having to come in to save the team who were trying to rescue other people, and made a mess of it because they couldn't do anything without Fireman Sam, because he was the hero. If you have a Fireman Sam in your team who is your hero developer who comes in and saves things, can they take a day off work without someone having to ring them? It's a terrible, terrible thing. Like, it's great having a hero. You think someone will come in and they'll save the day. But if they have that hero complex and they have that power, they can really hold the team to ransom. And if they do go off on a holiday or they decide to leave, it's just, like, I'm sure we've all been in situations where it's like, oh, well, I don't know how that worked. That was what Jimmy did, and Jimmy's not here, and then it just doesn't go to plan at all. So I would say, beware of Fireman Sams in your team. But I'm not saying that you should have no heroes, because if you look at the Avengers or the Justice League, you can easily put a bunch of heroes all together, and they can all work as a team and all do their own part and all play, and everyone comes together and does save the day. It's very much possible, but it's just letting them have all that information, their own little niche, they're guarding it, and not passing or training anybody else up to do the same thing. So everyone is involved in the decision. This is a big one for culture, and I mean right down to the basic stuff, like what time is your scrum going to be at in the morning. If you have a chat with your team, see what suits everyone, because you never know who might need to do the school run, who hasn't sung yet and isn't going to be out of bed before 8 in the morning. If you just involve people in decisions, and they have much more of an ownership of how things are done and why things are being done certain ways, they'll have much more of a belief and sort of want to do it. Everyone has a voice and is heard. This one comes from a time I was on client site, and we had a very opinionated architect from the client, and it didn't matter what anyone else said in the room, he didn't want to listen. And the project manager let him just talk and let him, like, it wasn't the Deloitte project manager, it was the client project manager, but he just let him steamroll over everybody else, and no one else got a chance to say anything, and no one else got to sort of voice their opinion. And everyone just walked out of the meeting feeling deflated, because we all knew that this architect had chosen his plan, and it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best way it could have been done. And then the end result just wasn't. No one had any heart in developing it, so it just wasn't the solution that was wanted. So I think as a team leader, you need to make sure that everyone has their chance to voice their opinions, even if they maybe not be the right ones, but give people the chance to have that discussion. because whenever everyone has that sort of singing from the same sheet, but to have that chat and have that discussion, people really, I think, buy into a lot more. This one, I sort of, Peter actually in the room, he's very good at this from working with him, because whenever you're actually going through your scrums and your tickets, like I work with Peter, and like whenever everyone was doing picking your points for your tickets, if someone picked a 6 and someone picked an 8, you'd really sort of sit down and kind of go, well, why do you think that was a 2? Why do you think that was an 8? And then you'd have this discussion about, oh, well, there's this method in Java, and like, that doesn't mean you have to do all this, or I've done this before and it was quite hard, or did you think about this? And then you have this sort of nice discussion, and then everyone kind of comes to agreement, and actually someone has probably learned from that because someone has known something that somebody else didn't know. That's why it's important to allow people to have that discussion, whereas that other architect didn't want to hear any of that and just steamrolled over and told everyone what the points was in the tickets. So, include everyone in everything. Contractors are people too. Is there any contractors in today? One. How often do you find you just get left out?
Not very often, because I would speak up and say, look, hello. And I'm always remote anyway, so I have to over communicate.
How many times do people ask you to come for a cup of tea? Well, if you're remote, you can't really, I suppose. Fly in and have a cup of tea. Where I got the best use out of contractors is when they're treated the same as anybody else in the team. Where you bring them to lunch, it's very easy to forget. Although it's legally down, you can't actively exclude them, but you make sure they're in your Slack conversations, make sure they're on your email to like go out for grab a lunch or go and do certain things, because whenever the contractors are included in all the discussions and talks and scrum meetings and stuff as well, and your plan sessions, they'll have valuable information and experience that they can contribute and input as well. Like I've definitely seen it before where it's just people are just, well, they're the contractor, and just give them the work, the donkey work to do, and we don't care about them. They'll be gone in a week anyway, or 2 weeks or a month. But if you actually sort of bring them in, they've so much to add, I think, and people just kind of tend to sort of exclude them for just because they're not a part of the company in a way. So practical ways then, sort of more practical things to sort of talk about of actually how to build your culture. And this is sort of, if I ever have a team, this is definitely stuff that I do. And if you take nothing else away from a day, take away this first point. Is by far the biggest difference I think I've made in my career. And that is whenever you're starting a new project, if you're joining the team, you've got to have a project initiation discussion with whoever is leading that team. Have it with your project lead, your lead developer, your architect. And what I mean by this is, there's a guy, Pete Thompson, he was the first person that ever did this with me whenever I joined a team in Deloitte. And he was the lead developer, and he sat down and was, right, what do you want to get out of this project? You're on this project for a year, you're learning new technology, what do you want, whenever you finish the project in a year, what do you want to achieve? And I sort of, then I kind of said that I wanted to get promoted that year. And he was like, fantastic, right, that's something I can work with. You need to be to demo to the client, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. And then he made all those opportunities happen for me to do what I wanted to do. And as a result, then that year I got promoted. And it's amazing then how I've been on so many other projects where people just don't do this. And they just assume that people know what people want in a project. Because not everyone wants to be promoted, not everyone wants to be that sort of person charging ahead. Maybe they're quite happy being a developer, maybe you're quite happy with what you are, but maybe you want to learn the iOS stuff coming from Java, or maybe you want to do something else. And if you don't have those conversations to make people know that this is what you want to do, or stuff equally that you don't want to do, then people can't mind read. They haven't quite nailed that yet. Research just hasn't got to it. So unless you tell people, they're not going to know. And you could just, rather than giving someone on the team opportunities that they need to get the promotion, who has no interest in being promoted, and there's someone else chomping at the bit wanting to get promoted and needing those opportunities. And it comes back then to sort of getting the best out of your team, getting them to be the best of what they want to be best at. And then it's not enough to just have that project initiation chat. You got to have the regular feedback talks, and this is something that we do all the time. You have to have your 2-week feedback chat, because there's no point in getting feedback at the end of the year. You really need to be getting it all along to address it and work on it. Meetings again, making sure everyone has their chance to speak. T-shaped members. So what I mean by this is everyone helps each other out. So if you're a developer and you got to the end of your sprint, or you're coming in the end of your sprint and you got all your development work done, you don't just sort of go off and do your own thing. You sort of look at who else in your team, like the testers normally are the ones at the end of the sprint who are flat out. And where I've worked this best on the team was at the start of the 2-week sprint, the tester was helping the BA put the information on the tickets for the next sprint. Where the developers were developing tickets. Whenever the developers were finished, they then helped the tester to test the tickets. As long as you hadn't developed your ticket, you helped the tester test the tickets. The tester gave everyone a crash course on how they tested the tickets, so everyone was at the same standard. But whenever everyone sort of helped in, like I was team lead, but whenever I did chance to fix bugs or did tests, I never helped the BA. Wherever stuff needed to be done, that was kind of where I went. So it wasn't just I'm a developer, not what I do. It was like people sort of helped each other out. The social team aspect, it's one of the easiest ways to build a good team, but it is a double-edged sword, so be very careful with it. If you only ever go for pints after work on a Friday, even if you say to everyone, you may unconsciously be excluding people, which is a very subtle form of bullying if you're not careful, because like I used to be that person who used to always go for pints on a Friday and said to everyone, but I never dawned on me that the guy with 2 kids couldn't go because he had to go and pick the kids up from school. And now that I am that person, where I can't go out on a Friday night and I can't just go out for lunch and go boozing or whatever, or I don't even really drink anymore. And if the people isn't in your team who do drink, you need to sort of think about doing different stuff all the time and different times to sort of try and get everyone to sort of inclusive. And get them to make that decision, what is it they can do and what they want to be. Being flexible as a project manager is essential. No one is perfect. Everyone has different, you don't know what's going on in people's lives. Not everyone is going to be firing on all cylinders at all times. I know this for a fact because whenever I come back from maternity, my children went through the whole sleep deprivation stage. And that was why I ended up doing that deployment to production, because I was so tired and I just made that mistake. But I shouldn't have been doing those deployments because I wasn't the right person to be doing them. If someone else had just took those kind of highly critical, important tasks from me or shadowed me a wee bit more on them, it could have prevented that from happening. But if you give people the chance that they're, if you know that there's stuff going on in people's lives, if you're having those regular feedback chats with them, it's easy then to sort of go, right, well, you've had a bereavement, maybe now is not the time to put you on the highly stressful, critical project that needs people to be working all hours of the day on. The other thing then, as a project manager especially, you need to know your project inside out, especially your financials. And what I mean by this is you really need to know, how many points there is, what points are being delivered in what sprints, what features are being delivered in what sprints, who's doing what, when is things expected to happen, so that whenever it comes to protecting the team, that you're armed with the information to go, well that feature is going to be developed here, it's going to be deployed here. So if you want to change all that, that's going to have this massive impact on the plan, and you rather than go, oh well, I need to come back to you on that, or I need to come back to you on that, or I need to go talk to someone else about that. If you have all that information at hand, it really makes that protecting the team a lot easier. With the financials bit, it's good to know how much your developers are costing per day. I learned this lesson a bit the hard way, where there was a problem with getting licenses paid for on a project I was on. So I thought I'd solve this problem and get all the people with the money to make the decisions to sort this all out and solve the bottleneck. So I got, and there were a number of the highest ranking people that there was, but because they were the money people, the people who approved everything. And the guy who come to me with the problem, he was there as well, but I hadn't done my homework beforehand because he wasn't prepared. He didn't have all the information of the project of the problem. He didn't know how much the licenses were costing, he didn't know. So whenever all these people who were like, well, what's the problem? It just boiled down to nothing. So this hour of a meeting was complete and utter waste of time. And after I emailed one of the directors to sort of apologise for it being a complete waste of time, he was like, yeah, do you realise how much that meeting cost? And something I never thought of before, and it's quite easy to work this out and divide because everyone has billable rates, but the meeting cost £300,000 for 1 hour because of the sheer amount of senior people who have been in it. And it was a waste of time. It was a complete waste of time. And the director had no shame at all in going, yeah, you cost the company £300,000 now. So know how much people cost, and then you make much better use of people's time. And that's where the mentors come into, because he was acting as a mentor to me, he was able to tell me that nobody else probably would have said to me. And then just to sort of wrap up then, if you ask yourself on a daily basis, am I someone I want to work with? And think about how you interact with people and how you do your development. That should be a big driver into how you do your daily basis business, and that will be a big check. I think you should ask yourself on a daily basis to know. Very quickly then, these are just some of the resources that I would have used myself. There's a couple of books there, and the Lead Development Conference, they do some great talks. This one is my favourite, How to Crash a Plane by Nicholas Means. It's one of the best conference talks I've ever seen, where he discusses the teamwork in a plane crash and how it went from being a complete and utter disaster to not so big a disaster. It's by far the best talk I've ever seen. Go to conference, they have loads of good stuff, and TED Talks have loads of good leadership stuff as well. Sorry folks for the mess of that in the middle of why all my memes didn't work. But do we have the Suicide Squad picture? Oh, maybe, no, it's not going to work anymore. It didn't work. Oh no, maybe it did. Yay! That's one of my favourite films. So there's no time for questions, but I'll be at the information desk all day if anyone wants to come and chat to me, or by all means tweet me anytime on Twitter about anything at all. I'm on maternity leave at the minute, so I live on Twitter. Sorry I was a bit of a bumble in the middle of it, but thanks very much for coming, and I hope you've got something out of it. And generally do go and have the chats with your project leads and leaders to make sure they know what you want to get out of a project.